The warm yellow crystal chandelier illuminated the dining room as if it were broad daylight. The long dining table was laden with exquisite dishes, all homey favorites that Eliascu had specifically requested since returning from abroad. He had just comfortably settled into his chair, his fingertips idly tracing the rim of his glass, still not having fully removed his coat. When he called out towards the entrance in a loud voice, Eliascu said in a low voice, "Mrs. Liu, go upstairs and call the mistress down for dinner. After all this trouble, she must be hungry by now." His tone carried an almost imperceptible air of laziness, along with a relaxed ease from returning from his overseas vacation. Clearly, he didn't regard asking Elena Shin to have dinner as anything particularly important, and subconsciously he still assumed that woman, who had always obeyed him without question, would be quietly waiting at home as usual. Mrs. Liu, standing at the kitchen doorway, froze visibly upon hearing these words. The cloth in her hand nearly slipped from her grasp. After several seconds of hesitation, she slowly turned around, her expression marked by obvious difficulty and a complex mix of emotion she could not quite articulate. Mrs. Liu lowered her head, her voice much softer than usual. She whispered, "Sir, the day you and Miss Xiao went skiing abroad, the lady took her luggage and left. Didn't she go looking for you?" As soon as those words left her mouth, the air in the dining room froze instantly. The smile on Eliascu's face instantly froze at the corners of his mouth. He even doubted whether he had heard it wrong. Furrowing his brows sharply and sitting up straight, all the relaxed demeanor he had just displayed was gone. Eliascu raised his voice, his tone laced with clear impatience and disbelief. "Mrs. Liu, what are you talking about? She left." "Where did she go?" "Before I left for abroad. I clearly told her to stay at home. Where could she possibly go?" In his mind, Elena Shin was just a woman without much independence, completely dependent on him. When the Shin family had fallen on hard times, it was he, Eliascu, who stepped in to help, barely keeping the family afloat. After marrying him, Elena had treated him like a god. She never even dared to so much as argue with him, let alone leave home on her own initiative. So when Nurse Liu said those words, his first reaction was that it was impossible. Nurse Liu looked up at Eliascu, whose face was filled with doubt, and sighed inwardly before repeating what she'd said, this time with more conviction. "Sir, I'm not lying. The moment your flight with Miss Xia took off, Mrs. Shin came down from the upstairs carrying 2 large suitcases. I asked her if she needed help calling a car, but she said no and told me not to tell you, claiming she was just going back to her hometown for a few days. At the time, I thought she was just pouting and going abroad to find you, but it's been over 10 days now, and she hasn't contacted you at all." Eliascu's expression grew darker with every passing second. He suddenly stood up from his chair, the movement too abrupt, the chair legs scraping harshly across the floor. He took a few quick steps toward Nurse Liu, his gaze filled with intensity. Yet his voice carried a tremor he didn't even notice. "Did she say anything when she left? Did she leave anything behind?" Nurse Liu shook her head. "Mrs. Shin only took her own luggage and her usual things. I went to her room just now and checked. Her documents, bank cards, and everything else are gone. Before she left, she even took the potted orchid she had been nurturing. That was a gift from you, and she had always treasured it." Eliascu's mind suddenly buzzed, as if a thunderbolt had struck directly down, leaving his ears ringing and making it impossible to hear a word Liu said behind him. He stumbled backward 2 steps and barely managed to steady himself by gripping the dining table behind him, his fingertips turning white from the force. He suddenly recalled that night before leaving the country, when Elena Shin had crouched on the floor clutching her stomach, ashen-faced, tugging at his sleeve. Her voice trembled as she said she was suffering from severe stomach pain and pleaded for him to delay his departure so he could accompany her to the hospital, but at the time, all he could think about was his skiing plans the next day with Lily Xia, and he impatiently shrugged off her hand. Eliascu's cold words still echoed clearly in his ears. "Elena Shin, can you please stop being so childish? I already told you this trip was important. Miss Xia has everything ready. You're having stomach pain now. Is that on purpose? Just take some medicine yourself and don't delay me. He even added, after noticing Lily Xia frowning nearby, if you really can't make it, have Lu Ma take you to the hospital. I don't have time to take care of you. Now that he thinks about it, Elena Shen's eyes were filled with despair back then. But at the time he was so busy trying to please Lily Xia beside him that he couldn't even bear to glance at her twice. Impossible. Elias Gu muttered under his breath, his steps unsteady as he walked toward the stairs. I'll check her room. She can't have left. She must just be sulking at me. He rushed up the second floor 2 steps at a time and threw open the door to Elena Shen's bedroom. The curtains were drawn tightly, dimming the room, and a faint trace of the gardenia scent she always used lingered in the air. But the wardrobe, which had once been neatly arranged, was now half empty. Her skincare products and jewelry were gone from the dressing table. Even the little teddy bear she cuddled every night beside her bed was nowhere to be seen. The room was eerily empty, leaving nothing but her fading presence, silently announcing that the owner had left completely. Elias Gu stood in the center of the room, like a frozen sculpture, his blood seemingly solidifying instantly. He suddenly raised his hand and swept the picture frame off the bedside table. It crashed to the ground. Glass shattering everywhere, the wedding photo of him and Elena Shen inside splitting in two. At that moment, his phone suddenly rang, Lily Xia calling, her voice sweet and soft. Elias, I'm home now. My mom made some soup for me. Do you want to come over and try some? Oh, by the way, I've organized the photos from our ski trip. I'll send them to you later. Normally, Elias Gu would have responded gently, but hearing Lily Xiao's voice now filled him with irritation. He gritted his teeth. His tone colder than ever. Get lost. After saying that, he hung up abruptly, then tossed his phone onto the bed with a dull thud. Only then did he realize the woman he had always ignored, always looked down upon, had truly left, gone without a trace, leaving him without even a single memory to cling to. A wave of immense panic and an inexplicable sense of dread suddenly overwhelmed him. He didn't even know why he was so frantic, only that his heart felt hollow, as if a piece had been ripped out, leaving an aching emptiness. I turned off the glaring news alert on my phone, my fingertips instinctively resting on my stomach, where a familiar dull pain began to spread. This old ailment had developed during the years I spent at the Gu household, particularly the night before Elias Gu left for skiing abroad with Lily Xia, when the pain was at its worst, and my heart had gone utterly cold. That evening, the living room of the Gu family villa was bustling with activity. Servants moved back and forth, packing bags for Elias Gu's trip abroad. Lily Xia, dressed in a soft pink cashmere sweater, affectionately linked her arm with Elias's, holding a brand new scarf in her hand as she stood on tiptoe to wrap it around his neck. Lily Xia said softly, Elias, I had this scarf custom made by a designer. It's windproof and warm. You're bound to need it when you're skiing over there. Make sure you don't lose it. Elias Gu glanced down at her, his eyes filled with a tenderness I hadn't seen in the 3 years of our marriage. He reached out and patted her hand, his tone affectionate. Don't worry, I'll keep it safe. I had just stepped out of the kitchen, holding a glass of freshly warmed milk. As I reached the living room doorway, a sudden, violent cramp twisted my stomach, causing my vision to blur. I dropped the glass, which shattered on the floor with a crash. The warm milk splashing across the floor, I curled up on the ground in agony, cold sweat breaking out across my forehead. I couldn't even stand, managing only to reach weakly toward Elias Gu, my voice trembling. Elias, I have a terrible stomachache. Could you take me to the hospital? My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone in the living room to hear. Yet Elias Gu only frowned slightly, not moving a step. Instead, he glanced down at his trouser leg, now stained with milk, his tone thick with irritation. Elias Gu said coldly, Elena Shen, what are you doing? You're such a grown-up, can't even hold a glass of milk steady. Lily Xia hurried forward, pretending to bend down and help me, but her voice carried a hint of concern. "Elena, sister, are you all right? Have you not been resting well lately? But Brother Elias has to leave for the airport early tomorrow morning. The skiing itinerary was scheduled long ago, and many partners are waiting over there. If it gets delayed, it would be quite problematic." On the surface, she was showing concern for me, but in reality, she was reminding Elias Gu that his schedule was far more important than my illness. I gritted my teeth, the pain almost bringing tears to my eyes, yet I still stubbornly looked at Elias Gu. "I really can't stand the pain anymore. Let's just go to the nearest hospital. It'll be quick, won't take much of your time." "Enough." Elias Gu suddenly cut me off, his voice brimming with irritation. He strode quickly toward me, towering over my crouched form on the ground. There was no trace of concern in his eyes, only contempt. "Elena Shin, can you stop being so childish? I've already told you how important this ski trip is. It's not just about relaxing. I have several key business negotiations to attend." Miss Xia gave up several of her own commitments to accompany me. "Are you deliberately trying to sabotage me by faking a stomachache now?" I froze, looking up at his cold, hard face, my heart clenched as if gripped by an icy hand, hurting worse than my stomach. I'd been married to him for 3 years, and he knew full well I had a stomach condition. Even when he was busy before, he would always ask Nurse Lu to prepare stomach-soothing porridge for me, but ever since Lily Xia appeared, I had ceased to exist in his eyes. Lily Xia stood by, feigning concern. "Brother Elias, don't say that to Sister Elena. She definitely didn't mean it. How about this? I have some spare stomach medicine. Let's give her a pill now to hold her over until we leave, then have Nurse Lu take her to the hospital afterward. What do you think?" As she spoke, she pulled a white pill from her bag and extended it to me, acting as if she already held the position of mistress of the household. Elias Gu's expression eased slightly after hearing those words. He crouched down and forcibly shoved the pill into my hand, his tone still icy. "Did you hear me? Take the medicine first. Don't cause trouble here. Lily and I still have a lot to prepare. We don't have time for you." After saying that, he straightened up, never glancing at me again, turning instead to discuss the skiing plans with Lily Xia. They laughed and talked, as if I, curled up on the ground in pain, were nothing more than an annoying decoration. Mrs. Lu hurried over, crouching down to help me up, her eyes already red. "Madam, get up quickly. I'll help you lie down on the sofa. I'll go make you some hot water." I took the pill, but didn't eat it. I just clenched it tightly in my hand until my knuckles turned white, watching Elias Gu and Lily Xia together so affectionately. The pain in my stomach and the cold in my heart twisted together, making it hard for me to even breathe. A short while later, Elias Gu's mother, my mother-in-law, came down from the upstairs. Seeing the mess on the floor and my pallid face, she didn't ask me a single question. Instead, she turned to Elias Gu and said, "Elias, hurry up and get ready. Don't delay tomorrow's plans. Lily is such a considerate girl. Going with you gives me peace of mind." She glanced at me again, her tone carrying reproach. "Elena, my goodness, you're such a weakling. Why did you have to feel unwell now? It's not the time. Elias's important matters come first. Don't drag him down." I closed my eyes, swallowing back the words that had risen to my lips. That was when I truly understood. In this household, I had always been an outsider. My illness, my pain, my grievances, none of it mattered as much as Elias Gu's trip. Not even Lily Xia's kind words could outweigh it. Later, Ms. Lu helped me back to my room, fetched the usual stomach medicine we kept at home, and prepared some porridge, but I couldn't eat a single bite. Lying in bed, I heard the laughter of Elias Gu and Lily Xia downstairs, along with the sounds of servants packing luggage. At that moment, the wire in my heart snapped completely. It was that night that I first began to entertain the idea of leaving, not out of a tantrum, not to go back to my parents' home, but to completely and permanently escape this suffocating place, Elias Gu and Lily Xia were busy packing their luggage, not once looking into my room until late at night. Early the next morning, before dawn had broken, they left for the airport with their suitcases, not even leaving me a word of farewell. I stood by the window on the second floor, watching their car disappear around the corner. In my hand, I still clutched the pills Lily Xia had given me. Finally, I let go gently. The pills fell to the floor and rolled into the corner, just like my position in the Gu family. Humble, insignificant, and unnoticed, from that moment on, my marriage, my love, were completely dead. All that remained was the retreat plan I had made for myself. 3 days before Elias Gu took Lily Xia abroad for skiing, the Gu family held a family gathering, claiming it was to strengthen relationships, but in reality, the mother-in-law wanted to use the opportunity to officially introduce Lily Xia to the relatives. That afternoon, the villa was decorated early, with servants setting out delicate tea, snacks, and fruits. Elias Gu's aunt, cousin, and uncles arrived one after another, and the living room soon filled with lively chatter. I wore a simple, elegant dress, helping Aunt Lu serve tea and water, bustling about. But my mother-in-law didn't even glance in my direction. Instead, she kept glancing toward the entrance, clearly waiting for someone I knew full well, but didn't reveal it. Just kept my head down, trying to minimize my presence. Not long after, footsteps were heard at the door, and Elias Gu entered with Lily Xia. Lily Xia was dressed in a designer suit, carrying several gift boxes featuring high-end brand logos, and wore a perfectly timed smile, warmly greeting everyone as soon as she stepped in. Lily Xia smiled and said, "Uncle, Auntie, and all the elders, hello, I'm Lily. I came today specifically to bring you some small gifts. I hope you won't mind." As soon as she finished speaking, her mother-in-law immediately stepped forward, her smile brighter than anyone else's, and took the gift box from her hand with a familiar tone, as if Lily were her own daughter. "Lily, you don't have to come carrying so many things, you're making it too formal." As she spoke, the mother-in-law opened one of the boxes right there in front of all the relatives. Inside was a beautifully packaged wild ginseng and a bottle of aged bird's nest, clearly very expensive. The mother-in-law's eyes lit up as she held the box up for the relatives to see. Look, how thoughtful this girl Lily is. She knows I haven't been sleeping well lately, so she specially had some wild ginseng brought back from abroad, and this bird's nest too. They say it nourishes and beautifies the complexion. She's much more considerate than my own wayward younger relatives." The relatives chimed in with praise, complimenting Lily Xia for being thoughtful and generous. Some even teased Elias Gu. "Elias, this girl is great, you two match well. When can we expect to drink your wedding wine?" Elias Gu just smiled without saying a word, his pride clearly visible in his eyes, completely ignoring me standing by the side. I stood in the corner, still holding the teacup I hadn't handed out, my dress still the same outdated style from last year. The gift I had prepared for my mother-in-law was the donkey hide gelatin cake I'd personally made. Though I had put a lot of effort into it, compared to Lily Xia's expensive tonics, it certainly looked meager. At that moment, Elias Gu's cousin, with sharp eyes, caught sight of what I was holding and deliberately raised her voice. "Oh, Elena, you've prepared a gift for Mom too, right? Let's see it. Surely it's something thoughtful as well." As soon as she spoke, everyone's eyes immediately turned to me. I gripped the teacup tighter, hesitated for a moment, then took out the donkey hide gelatin cake gift box I had placed beside me. I spoke softly. "It's nothing fancy, just some donkey hide gelatin cake I made myself. I thought it'd help Mom strengthen her health." The mother-in-law glanced at the plain gift box, and the smile on her face instantly faded, even wrinkling her brow. Her tone carried obvious disdain. "That's it. What good can your homemade stuff do? It's better to buy something ready-made. Besides, who knows what ingredients you used? Don't ruin your health." As soon as those words left her mouth, the air around us grew quiet. The relatives' gazes turned awkward, some with pity, others plainly enjoying the scene. My face flushed with embarrassment, my fingers clutching the gift box so tightly they nearly sank into my flesh. But I still held back from speaking. Who knew Lily Xia would step in to ease the tension, pulling her mother-in-law's arm and saying softly, "Auntie, don't say that about Sister Elena. She meant well. Maybe she's just a little short on cash lately, which is why she didn't bring anything expensive." On the surface, she seemed to be defending me, but in reality, she was suggesting I was petty and poor, instantly putting me in an uncomfortable position. As if suddenly awakened by her words, my mother-in-law immediately turned to me, her tone harsher than before. "Exactly, Elena. You've been married into the Gu family for 3 years now. Yet you still act so petty. Lily is just Elias's friend. And even she knows to send such a precious gift, and you, as the daughter-in-law of the Gu family, present me with something so trivial. Do you think our Gu family is short on money, or do you simply not respect me as your mother-in-law?" I didn't. I bit my lip, wanting to explain that I had spent several nights making the donkey hide gelatin cake, using the best ingredients, but I was cut off by Elias Gu. Elias Gu furrowed his brow and said, "Mom, don't be angry. She's just like that, lacks perspective, don't take it to heart, don't bother with her." After saying that, he glanced at me with a warning in his eyes. "Hurry up and put your things away, don't embarrass yourself here." I watched him defend Lily Xia, then glanced at my mother-in-law's disdainful expression and the curious gazes of the relatives, and the last bit of warmth in my heart completely vanished. I didn't argue anymore. Quietly took back the donkey hide gelatin cake gift box, put down my teacup, and softly said, "I'll go check on Mrs. Liu in the kitchen," before turning and rushing into the kitchen as if fleeing. As the kitchen door closed, the cheerful laughter outside was abruptly cut off behind me. I leaned against the cold door panel, and tears finally fell. I've been married into the Gu family for 3 years, devotedly serving my in-laws, managing the household affairs, never daring to slack off even for a moment, yet in their eyes, all my efforts were worth less than a single expensive gift from Lily Xia, less than a single sweet word from her. Nanny Lu was busy in the kitchen when she saw me enter with red eyes. She quickly put down her work, pulled me aside, and said with concern, "Madam, don't take it to heart. Grandma is simply blinded by that girl's gift. We all know how much you've done." I shook my head, wiped away my tears, took a deep breath, and tried to keep my voice calm. "I'm fine, Nanny Lu. You go on with your work. I just came in to rest for a bit." But only I knew that at that moment, some corner of my heart had completely collapsed. I remembered when I first married into the family, my mother-in-law once held my hand and said she would treat me like her own daughter, and Elias Gu said he would love me for life. But after Lily Xia showed up, all those promises turned into jokes. Not long after, the laughter in the living room grew louder, and I could faintly hear Lily Xia and my mother-in-law talking about skincare tips, with Elias Gu occasionally chiming in. I stood by the kitchen window, watching the sky outside gradually darken, while my decision became increasingly resolute. This gathering completely shattered all my illusions about the Gu family. I knew that this home no longer had a place for me. I had to think of myself, had to leave this place that had made me suffer so much. When the party ended, Elias Gu and Lily Xia walked the guests out together, standing side by side, a perfect couple that made others envious. Meanwhile, I silently tidied up the mess in the living room, like an insignificant servant, and not even a single farewell was said to me. As my mother-in-law passed by, she still remembered to remind me, "Make sure to properly store the ginseng and bird's nest that Lily brought tomorrow. Don't let the household staff touch them, and in the future, avoid making such useless things. It'll only make people laugh at us." I lowered my head and gave a soft without glancing at her again. Only after everyone had left did Elias Gu remember me. He walked up to me, his tone laced with impatience, still tidying up. "Hurry up and change your clothes. We have to leave early for the airport tomorrow." Don't delay the trip. He never once asked me if I had been hurt or upset, nor did he think there was anything wrong with his and his mother's behavior. Looking at his indifferent profile, the last flicker of attachment in my heart completely vanished, and I merely said coldly, "I understand," then turned and walked back to my room. Elias Gu and Lily Xia's flight was early the next morning, before dawn had even broken. The villa was already bustling with activity. I lay in bed, my eyes open, the faint light from outside filtering through the gaps in the curtains, but it couldn't reach into my icy heart. I listened to Elias Gu's footsteps descending the stairs, heard the tone of his conversation with his mother-in-law about the itinerary, and the whiny tone of Lily Xia calling to urge him to leave. Throughout it all, he didn't even open my door, not even to come in and say a word. "Take good care of yourself." Not long after, the sound of a car starting came from downstairs, then gradually faded away, completely disappearing into the quiet of the morning. Only then did I slowly sit up in bed, showing no hesitation, pulling off the covers, and began my long-prepared farewell. First, I opened the wardrobe. I didn't touch the designer clothes Gu Jia had bought me. I only packed my old clothes from before I married into the family, along with a few belongings left behind by the Shen family as mementos. I didn't even touch a single one of the luxury handbags or jewelry Elias Gu had given me. Those were the dignified gifts he bestowed upon me, and I didn't want them. Then came the bureau drawer in the study. I took out my ID card, passport, and bank cards, all of which I carefully placed into a waterproof file pouch I had prepared in advance. Over these years, I hadn't been idle, though the Shen family had fallen. I had, through my grandfather's contacts, secretly invested in a few small ventures. The savings I'd accumulated were enough to secure a comfortable life for the rest of my days. This was the reason I dared to walk away so freely. While tidying up the bedside table, I saw the pot of orchids Elias Gu gave me when he pursued me back then. The leaves still carried a hint of green, but they had lost the vitality they once had. I carefully removed it from its pot, wrapped the roots with a damp cloth, and placed it in a breathable cardboard box. This plant was our only memento from the past. Taking it away felt like finally drawing a line under that relationship. The noise from upstairs wasn't insignificant. Probably worried, Mrs. Lu came up carrying a bowl of hot porridge. As she reached the door, she saw my luggage scattered all over the floor, and the tray in her hand shook with a loud clang, and the bowl of porridge nearly slipped from her grasp. "Mrs. Lu exclaimed in shock. "Madam, what are you?" I didn't turn around, just continued packing the last cashmere sweater into the suitcase, my voice so calm that even I was surprised. "I'm leaving, Mrs. Lu." Luma walked in quickly, her eyes instantly turning red. She put down the tray, reached out to grab me, then hesitated and pulled back. "Madam, are you angry with the master? He's just confused for now. Once he comes back from abroad, please talk to him calmly. He will surely change his mind. Please don't act impulsively." I finally turned around and looked at Luma's reddened eyes, feeling a surge of warmth in my heart. In the 3 years at the Gu family, only Luma had truly treated me with kindness. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, trying to smile but failing to do so. "It's not about being angry, Luma. I'm really leaving. I won't be coming back." "That's no good, Mrs. Lu panicked, her voice trembling with tears. "If you leave, how worried Mr. will be when he comes back. And the old lady, she'll surely search for you all over if she finds out. If you've been wronged, just tell me, and I'll go plead with Mr. on your behalf." "No need," I cut in, picking up the cup of water from the table and taking a sip to suppress the lump in my throat. "His heart isn't with me. Pleading won't help. I'm exhausted from staying in this household, watching him constantly with Lily Xia, enduring my mother-in-law's constant disdain. I've had enough." I walked up to Mrs. Lu, took out a bank card from my wallet, and slipped it into her hand. "Mrs. Lu, thank you for taking care of me over the years. There's some money in this card. Please take it to buy something you like. As a small token of my appreciation, Mrs. Lu quickly pushed the card back, shaking her head vigorously like a rattle. Madam, I can't take your money. It's my duty to take care of you. Please take the card back. If you're really determined to leave, I'll help you keep it hidden. When the master returns, I'll tell him you've gone back to your family home. That way, he won't be too upset. Looking into her determined eyes, I knew she truly had my best interests at heart, so I didn't insist any further. I tucked the card away and said softly, "Then can you do me a favor? Please call a car and take me to the suburban bus station, but please don't let the other servants in the villa know." Mrs. Lu bit her lip, hesitated for a few seconds, but finally nodded. "Don't worry. I'll arrange it right away. No one will notice." She turned to leave, then suddenly turned back and reminded me, "Madam, please be careful on your way. If you suffer any injustice outside, just call me. Even if I have to beg my husband, I'll make him go and bring you back." My nose tightened and I fought back tears. Only nodding. "I know. You take care too." Aunt Lu returned soon, saying the car was waiting at the back door. I took one last look at the bedroom I'd lived in for 3 years, no trace of attachment, and bent down to pick up 2 large suitcases. I also carried the cardboard box with the Chinese herb plants, and followed Aunt Lu downstairs. As I passed the living room, I saw our wedding photo hanging on the wall. Me smiling happily in the picture, Elias Gu with a gentle expression. But now, it felt terribly ironic. I didn't stop. I walked straight beneath the photo, as if stepping across a chasm I could never return from. The light at the back door was dim, and the driver was already waiting by the car. Mrs. Lu helped me load my luggage into the vehicle and then handed me a thermos. "I just boiled some ginger tea with brown sugar. Drink it on the way to keep yourself warm." I took the thermos, and the warmth beneath my fingertips stirred the last remnant of tenderness in my heart. I looked at Mrs. Lu and said softly, "Thank you, Mrs. Lu. Please don't hide things from me anymore. When he asks, just tell the truth." Aunt Lu's eyes were red-rimmed. She nodded without speaking, turning her face away, as if she couldn't bear to watch me leave. I bent down and got into the car. As I closed the door, I waved to Mrs. Lu. The driver pressed the accelerator, and the car slowly drove away from the Gu family's villa. I looked in the rearview mirror at the increasingly distant luxurious villa, at Mrs. Lu's figure growing smaller at the entrance, and finally let out a sigh of relief, as if I had finally lifted a 1,000-pound burden. The sky outside the car window gradually grew lighter. The morning chill blew through, carrying a biting cold, yet I felt incredibly relieved. I opened the thermos, sipped some warm ginger tea, and the warmth flowed down my throat into my stomach. Dispelling the last trace of cold from my heart, I took out my phone, blocked all contact details of Elias Gu and my mother-in-law, and sent a message to my only remaining relative, my cousin from the Shen family, telling him I was moving to another city and to not worry. After doing all this, I put my phone on silent, leaned back in the seat, and closed my eyes. The cold night had passed. A new life was finally beginning. I would no longer be the accommodating wife of the Gu family. I would reclaim myself, becoming the proud young lady of the Shen family once more, building a thriving life through my own strength. Elias Gu and Lily Xia spent over 10 days skiing abroad, not only securing 2 small collaborations but also having a great time. When they returned home, both seemed completely relaxed. Indeed, Elias Gu even bought Lily Xia several luxury items, yet he brought nothing at all for Elena Shen. In his eyes, that woman should simply stay at home and wait. Unworthy of his effort to prepare presents, the car had just entered the gate of the Gu family's villa when Lily Xia leaned coquettishly against Elias Gu's shoulder. "Elias, brother, the ski trip was so much fun. Shall we come again sometime?" Elias Gu gently squeezed her hand, his tone full of indulgence. "Sure, anytime you want." But when he pushed open the door and stepped into the living room, not seeing the familiar figure that usually greeted him with a smile, A faint emptiness welled up in his heart. He took off his coat and handed it to the maid, casually asking, "Where's Madam?" "Still upstairs." The maid hesitated, too startled to speak. At that moment, Aunt Lou came out of the kitchen, casting a complicated glance toward him, no longer repeating her earlier words, simply shaking her head. Elias Gu finally realized something was wrong. The sense of calm he had felt earlier vanished instantly. He rushed up the stairs to the second floor, pushed open Elena Shin's bedroom door again, and saw only the empty wardrobe and dressing table, with not even a hint of life left. He grew utterly panicked, turned around, and hurried downstairs, grabbing Mama Lou's arm so hard that she winced in pain. Elias Gu snapped, "Where the hell did she go? Tell me now. Did she go back to her family's home?" Mama Lou's arm ached from his grip, yet she still forced herself to speak. "Sir, I truly don't know exactly where Madam went. She just said she'd go back to her hometown for a few days, but later, I called the Shin family, and they said Madam never returned and hadn't contacted them at all." "Bullshit." Elias Gu violently shrugged off Mama Lou's arm, his voice harsh. "In the city, she's either at her husband's home or the Shin family's. Where else could she go? Are you hiding something from me?" Lou Mama stumbled backward, her eyes reddened. "Sir, if I had known, I would have told you when the Madam left. She didn't even tell me where she was going. She only asked me not to reveal her whereabouts to you." Elias Gu refused to believe it and immediately pulled out his phone, dialing Elena Shin's number, but the receiver only returned a cold automated message. "The number you dialed has been deactivated." He froze for a moment, then tried her backup number, her WeChat voice message. Even sent messages to her social media accounts, but all led to the same result: the number was deactivated. Or the account didn't exist. All her contact information seemed to have vanished into thin air. Elias Gu's face turned pale. Only then did he realize that Elena Shin wasn't just throwing a tantrum, she was truly determined to disappear from his life forever. He turned sharply and hurried out, still pulling out his phone to call his assistant, his tone more panicked and irritable than ever before. Elias Gu shouted into the phone, "Get on it now. Find Elena Shin. Pull her ID usage records, bank statements, flight and high-speed rail tickets, everything, even if you have to dig through the earth. I want her found." The assistant was taken aback by his outburst. Never had he seen the normally calm and composed president lose his composure so completely, and quickly responded, "Yes, Mr. Gu. I'll arrange someone to look into it right away." After hanging up, Elias Gu drove directly to the Shin family residence. The Shins were barely making ends meet with the support from the Gu family. Seeing him arrive unexpectedly, Mr. and Mrs. Shin assumed Elena Shin had angered him again. Smiling apologetically as they hurried forward to greet him, Mr. Shin said with a forced smile, "Elias, what brings you here? Did Elena cause trouble again? Where is she? Isn't she back with you?" Elias Gu wasn't in the mood for pleasantries and got straight to the point. "She hasn't gone back to the Shin family." The Shin parents were stunned. Shin's mother quickly said, "No. She hasn't contacted us in these past 10 days. We thought she was still at home. What's wrong? Isn't she at the Gu family's house?" Seeing the bewildered expressions on the Shin parents' faces, Elias Gu's heart sank little by little. He knew that Elena Shin truly hadn't returned to the Shin family, nor had she informed her family about her whereabouts. He didn't say more, only left behind the words, "Call me immediately if you hear from her," and turned to leave the Shin household. Back at the villa, Lily Xia was sitting on the living room sofa, holding a bunch of grapes. Seeing him return with a dark expression, she quickly got up and approached him, pretending to care and asking, "Elias brother, what's wrong? Did something happen to Sister Elena?" "Don't worry. We'll definitely find her if we search carefully." Normally, Elias Gu might have found her thoughtfulness touching, but hearing her voice now only filled him with irritation. He suddenly raised his hand to cut her off, his tone icy. "Shut up. If it weren't for you, would she have left? Lily Xia turned pale at his shout, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. She lipped grievance. Elias brother, what did I do? I didn't upset Sister Elena. How can you blame me? Elias Gu ignored her and walked straight to the sofa, sitting down. His fingers tapped impatiently on the armrest, his mind replaying Elena Shen's last moments before she left. He recalled that night before she left for overseas, when she curled up on the floor, clutching her stomach in pain, and the look of utter despair in her eyes. His heart ached as if pierced by a needle. Not long after, his assistant called, her tone carrying a hint of difficulty. Mr. Gu, we can't find her. All of Miss Shen's bank cards were cancelled on the day she left. Her ID card has no recent usage records, and there's no ticketing information at the airport or high-speed rail stations. It's as if she completely vanished from this city. Useless, Elias Gu roared, slamming the phone down and throwing it onto the sofa, the screen shattering instantly. Lily Xia was frightened by his outburst and dared not speak further, shrinking to the side, though inwardly she felt a quiet satisfaction. It was best that Elena Shen had left. Now she could firmly secure her position as the future daughter-in-law of the Gu family. Elias Gu slumped onto the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling, a wave of panic he had never felt before overwhelming him. He had always believed that Elena Shen couldn't live without him, couldn't survive without the Gu family, but now he realized, it was he who couldn't live without her. Without her, the house felt hollow, even the food lost its familiar taste. Suddenly, he remembered that after Elena Shen married in, she had every day made him a cup of warm milk, left a light on when he came home late from work, and kept the house perfectly organized, never letting him worry. But he had never truly appreciated these familiar kindnesses, taking them for granted and even considering them as natural. Go move all her old things to my room, Elias Gu suddenly shouted at Mrs. Liu, his tone carrying an unnoticeable plea, and keep searching. Even if you have to look overseas, you must bring her back. Mrs. Liu looked at his dazed expression, sighed inwardly, but still nodded. All right, sir. For the next few days, Elias Gu acted as if possessed, staying at the villa every day waiting for news, leaving all company affairs to his deputy. He sent people to search every hotel and guest house in the city, even going through every place Elena Shen had previously visited, but still found no trace whatsoever. His subordinates also discovered that before leaving, Elena Shen had left all the luxuries given to her by the Gu family in the dressing room, even leaving behind the secondary card Elias Gu had given her in the drawer, untouched. This discovery made Elias Gu even more anxious, as he knew Elena Shen was determined to cut all ties with him. That night, Elias Gu sat alone in the empty restaurant, in front of the home-cooked dishes Mrs. Liu had prepared as he'd requested. Yet he couldn't bring himself to eat a single bite. He stared at the empty seat across from him, recalling how Elena Shen used to sit there, smiling as she served him food and told him funny stories from home. His eyes suddenly brimmed with tears. For the first time, he realized what he had truly lost. But now, regret came too late. Elena Shen had vanished from the world, no trace at all, impossible to find again. The car took me all the way to the suburban bus station, where I transferred to a long-distance bus. After 8 hours of bumpy travel, I finally reached my destination, Nanjing. This city was where my grandfather had worked hard when he was young, where he had built many connections. It was also the safe haven I had chosen long ago, and the starting point of my new life. I rented an apartment with a small balcony in the southern city. It's not big, but it's bright and in a quiet location. As soon as I moved my luggage in, I placed the potted orchid on the balcony, watered it a little, and gazed at its emerald green leaves, finally feeling a sense of calm. This was the only memento I brought from the Gu family, and also the last connection I had to my past before completely severing ties with it. After resting for 2 days, I began preparing to set up my beauty studio. In fact, I studied beauty design in college and even won a National Design Award, but after marrying into the Gu family, I had to hide this hobby and profession completely to conform to Elias Gu's idea that a Gu family wife should be well behaved and proper. Now, returning to my old trade, I feel a sense of relief and comfort all over. I first went to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau to register the company, naming it Elena Beauty Studio. I didn't go for any flashy gimmicks, I just wanted to build a solid reputation. Then I started looking for office space. Instead of choosing a luxurious downtown office building, I picked a small 2-story building in a cultural and creative park, moderate rent and a particularly design-friendly atmosphere. When looking for a place, the landlord was an auntie in her 50s. At first, she wasn't very willing to rent to me, saying I looked too young and worried I might not have the means to pay the rent. The landlady glanced at me and said, "Young lady, the rent here in this complex isn't cheap. Though it's not exactly expensive either. Can you really make it work running a studio by yourself? Don't end up unable to pay the rent, and then I'll have to go through all that trouble." I didn't argue with her. Instead, I took out my award certificates, past beauty case studies, and proof of financial statements from my bag and placed them in front of her. "Auntie, don't worry, I'm not doing this on a whim. This was my major in college, and I've had many successful cases. I've already prepared sufficient startup capital, and I can pay the rent for a full year in one lump sum. If you don't believe me, we can sign a formal contract." The landlady picked up the documents and flipped through them, seeing the award certificates I'd won. Her gaze changed noticeably. She nodded, saying, "All right, you seem like a straight-up, capable girl. The space is yours, and I'll even give you a discount. Consider it support for young entrepreneurs." I smiled and signed the contract with her, transferring the rent on the spot, finally feeling a weight lifted off my chest. Next came the renovation and hiring. I contacted Uncle Lee, my grandfather's old subordinate, who had been doing renovation in the southern city for years. He was skilled and reliable. When he heard I was a child of the Shin family, he didn't hesitate and brought his team over. Not only did he offer me a discount, but he also specially designed a style that fit the aesthetic of a beauty studio. When hiring, I didn't set up any complicated interview process, just 2 requirements: solid skills and good character. There was a girl named Ivy Lin who used to be a lead makeup artist at a big photo studio. She quit because she couldn't stand the boss's exploitation. When she came for the interview, she immediately demonstrated an ancient-style makeup look on the spot, fast and precise. I made the decision right then and there to hire her. Ivy Lin said excitedly, "Mr. Shin, thank you for trusting me. I will definitely work hard and won't let down your trust." I patted her on the shoulder. "From now on, we're partners, not boss and employee. The studio is just getting started. Let's work hard together." Besides Ivy Lin, I also hired 2 apprentices and a receptionist. Both were hardworking young people. The team for the studio was quickly put together. The renovation was finished in just half a month. The second floor was designated for the design area and product development room, while the first floor became the reception area and cosmetics experience zone. The overall style was simple yet warm, making everyone who walked in feel comfortable. Before opening, I leveraged my past connections to reach out to a few micro-influencers and beauty bloggers, inviting them to come for free experience and help promote the studio. These bloggers had worked with me before and knew my capabilities, so they were happy to lend a hand. On the opening day, many vendors from the cultural and creative park came to support me. Uncle Lee even gave me a lucky cat figurine, saying he wished me prosperous business, standing at the entrance of the studio. I watched the guests coming and going, and the busy, enthusiastic figures of my team members, and a sense of accomplishment I had never felt before welled up in my heart. Back in the Gu household, I used to revolve around Elias Gu and my mother-in-law every day, even hiding my own preferences, living like a puppet on strings. But now, I've built my own career through my own efforts, gained partners to fight alongside, and no longer need to worry about anyone's moods. This feeling of freedom is far more comforting than anything else. During the noon break, Ivy Lynn walked over holding a cup of milk tea, smiling and saying, "Mr. Shin, just now a customer said our makeup design is more professional than those big stores in the city center, and even said he'd recommend friends to come here in the future." I took the milk tea, took a sip, and felt a warmth in my heart. This is all thanks to everyone. I'll treat you all to hot pot tonight to celebrate properly. A cheer suddenly erupted in the studio. Looking at these vibrant young people, I suddenly felt that the grievances I had endured in the Gu family were insignificant. Those unpleasant people and events should remain in the past. What I need to do now is to grow Elena Beauty into a stronger enterprise and live a wonderful life of my own. But I wasn't completely careless. I knew Elias Gu would certainly send someone after me, so I consistently used the name Elena Shin publicly, deliberately downplaying any connection to the Gu family. Even the studio's registration information was handled through my old independent account, leaving no trace of the Gu family. I also deliberately changed my phone number and social media accounts, telling only a few trusted people, just to prevent Elias Gu from finding me. On the third day after opening, a wedding company approached us, wanting to collaborate with our studio for their client's wedding makeup. The head of the company, Manager Wang, initially questioned the capabilities of our studio and insisted that I personally demonstrate my skills for him. With his arms crossed, Manager Wang said, "Miss Shin, it's not that I don't believe you, but our wedding company deals with highly demanding clients. If the makeup fails, our reputation will be damaged. You need to show me what you're capable of." I didn't refuse, and immediately picked a trainee as a model, completing a delicate bridal makeup in 15 minutes. From base makeup to eye makeup, every step was just right, highlighting the trainee's facial features to the fullest. Manager Wang's eyes lit up as he finished reading. He quickly grasped my hand. "Mr. Shin, amazing. Just based on your skill, our cooperation is sealed. I'll go back and draft the contract right away. All our brides' makeup from now on will be handled by your studio." This partnership secured the studio's business. And soon after, more individual clients and collaborative orders began to arrive, gradually spreading the studio's reputation throughout the makeup community in South City. I'm busy every day dealing with clients, designing makeup looks, and developing new products. Life is full and hectic, leaving little time to think about the mess back home. Occasionally, when the night is quiet and still, I'll stand on the balcony and gaze at that pot of orchid grass, and I'll also think of Elias Gu. But there's no more emotion in my heart, only relief that I managed to pull away in time, and didn't waste my whole life in that terrible marriage. My studio in the southern city had just gotten back on track. I was busy every day handling orders and training staff, living a fulfilling and stable life, almost forgetting the existence of the Gu family. But just then, a message from Mrs. Liu, sent secretly, made me instantly aware of the absurdities happening in the Gu family's villa. Elias Gu had sent people to search for me for over half a month, but couldn't find the slightest trace. His anxiety grew, and he lost interest in managing company affairs. Each day, he'd stay in the villa, staring blankly at the old belongings I'd left behind. Seeing this, his mother, the mother-in-law, was deeply worried. Instead of reflecting on her and Elias Gu's own faults, she blamed me for being unappreciative and deliberately avoiding her. She then turned her attention to Lily Xia. Early that morning, the mother-in-law called Elias Gu into the living room, clutching in her hand the birth details of Lily Xia. Speaking with an unyielding tone, the mother-in-law said sternly, "Elias, stop wasting time trying to find Elena Shin. That woman has clearly decided to cut ties with you completely. We Gu family don't need to be disturbed over an outsider. I think Lily is a fine girl. She's caring, attentive, and thoughtful. I've already consulted a master, and our birth charts match perfectly. I think we should just finalize the engagement and hold the betrothal banquet." Elias Gu frowned, still worried about me, his tone slightly impatient. "Mom, I don't have time to talk about this now. I still need to keep looking for Elena. What's there to look for? His mother suddenly slammed her hand on the table, her voice rising 8 degrees. What kind of woman is Elena Shin? If it weren't for our Gu family helping out back then, the Shin family would have gone bankrupt long ago. Now she just disappears without a word. She clearly doesn't respect our Gu family. A woman like that isn't worth your affection, but Lily is different. Though her family background isn't as impressive as the Shins, she's sensible and obedient, and she truly cares about you. If she were to enter our Gu family, she'd be 100 times better than Elena Shin. As they argued, Lily Xia walked in carrying a bowl of freshly stewed bird's nest. She placed it in front of Elias Gu and spoke gently, "Auntie, please don't pressure brother Elias anymore. I know he's upset. I don't care about titles or formalities. As long as I can be by brother Elias's side and take care of him, that's enough for me." Her words seemed understanding and humble, but in truth, they were a strategic retreat, playing on her mother-in-law's sympathy and Elias Gu's guilt. Sure enough, the mother-in-law immediately felt distressed, taking Lily Xia's hand and saying, "Good girl, you've been through so much. Don't worry, Auntie will definitely stand up for you. This position as the daughter-in-law of the Gu family can only be yours." Elias Gu looked at Lily Xia's tear-filled eyes and recalled how she'd been by his side, comforting him these past few days. His sense of guilt deepened, compounded by his mother's constant murmuring. He rubbed his temples in irritation, then finally gave in. "Let's not announce the engagement banquet yet. Let me think about it some more." Though he hadn't directly agreed, he also hadn't refused, and to both his mother and Lily Xia, it counted as tacit approval. That afternoon, the mother-in-law instructed the servants to redecorate the second-floor bedroom where I had once lived, packing all my belongings into the storage room, then had Lily Xia move in. The maid hesitated slightly and whispered, "Madam, this was originally the mistress's room. Isn't it inappropriate to let Miss Xia move in directly?" The mother-in-law immediately frowned and said sharply, "What's inappropriate about it? Elena Shin is no longer one of the Gu family. This room is empty anyway. Lily moving in is perfect. From now on, she's the Gu family's future daughter-in-law, and she deserves a share of everything in this villa." The maid didn't dare to argue further and could only obey. The day Lily Xia moved into my bedroom, she took a photo and posted it on her Moments, writing "A new beginning," full of joy, though she didn't explicitly mention where. Anyone with eyes could see her smug triumph. Within just a few days, the mother-in-law began spreading news outside, claiming that Elias Gu and Elena Shin's marriage had long been a hollow shell, that they were already negotiating a divorce, and that Lily Xia was the true match for Elias Gu. The Gu family would soon hold an engagement banquet. As soon as these words spread, the social circle erupted. Many people started gossiping behind my back, saying I was ungrateful, while others envied Lily Xia for her good fortune in climbing onto the Gu family's big tree. Some of the older shareholders of the Gu group heard about this and specifically sought out Elias Gu, urging him to make a decision soon, saying that Lily Xia seemed stable and could help him keep the household in order. Elias Gu was thoroughly annoyed by these people, and with Lily Xia gently persuading him every day, he actually began preparing for the engagement banquet. Yet in his heart, he felt an emptiness, as if something was missing. After Lily Xia moved into the Gu family, she fully embraced her role as future daughter-in-law. She woke up early every day to make breakfast for her mother-in-law and Elias Gu, accompanied her mother-in-law shopping and to beauty treatments, and kept her completely enchanted. She occasionally sent loving lunches to Elias Gu at the company, and in front of the staff, she deliberately cultivated an image of gentleness and virtue. Many employees secretly said that Ms. Xia was much more thoughtful than the previous Mrs. Shin. All of these things were told to me secretly by Mrs. Lu. Mrs. Lu disapproved of Lily Xia's behavior and felt sorry for the injustices I had suffered, taking the excuse of finding space for my old belongings. She secretly sent me messages using her personal phone, explaining every move the Gu family made with complete clarity. That night, After finishing my work at the studio, I sat on the balcony chair, reading the messages Mrs. Liu sent me, along with the photos she had secretly taken of Lily Xia occupying my bedroom, yet I felt not the slightest ripple of emotion. Indeed, I found it somewhat laughable. Ivy Lin walked over holding a cup of hot coffee, saw me staring at my phone, and asked curiously, "Mr. Shen, what's wrong? Did something bother you?" I put away my phone, tugging at the corner of my mouth, and spoke in a flat tone, "Nothing much. Just saw the farce of some petty clown, not worth mentioning." Ivy Lin blinked, didn't ask further, and just handed me the coffee. "Then don't overthink it. Get some rest. You have a big client to meet tomorrow." I nodded, took the coffee, and sipped it. Actually, I had anticipated that Lily Xia would take advantage of the situation, and that my mother-in-law would favor her. I just didn't expect them to be so eager, already planning the engagement party before I was even officially divorced. They trampled on the Gu family's reputation and my dignity without hesitation, but I wasn't angry at all. I actually saw it as a good opportunity. The more smug and arrogant they become, the harder they'll fall when I strike back. I saved all the messages sent by Ma Lu and took screenshots of Lily Xia's moments and the comments in her circles. These are all evidence to prove them wrong in the future. I specially asked a friend in the southern city to keep an eye on the Gu family's activities, especially the progress of the engagement banquet preparations. I already have a preliminary plan in mind. When their engagement banquet is in full swing, that will be the time I return to settle everything. Although Elias Gu had agreed to prepare for his engagement party with Lily Xia, he had been feeling an inexplicable irritability these past few days, even keeping a distant look when glancing at Lily Xia. Sensing something was off, Lily Xia decided to completely erase my traces from the Gu family so she could fully claim his heart. That day, she suggested to her mother-in-law to throw away all my old belongings stored in the attic. Lily Xia held her mother-in-law's arm gently and said, "Auntie, those old things piled up in the storage room take up space and look quite bothersome. Why don't I have the servants clear everything out? It'll also give us some room for new decorations at our engagement party." My mother-in-law already disapproved of the things I left behind and immediately nodded in agreement. "You really thought of everything. Let's have someone clear them out quickly, so Elias won't be annoyed by seeing them." Their conversation happened to be overheard by Elias Gu, who had just come downstairs to get some water. His heart tightened suddenly, and without thinking, he snapped sharply, "Don't throw anything away. No one is allowed to touch her things." Lily Xia was startled by his sudden outburst, her eyes turning red in an instant. She looked grievous and said, "Elias, I was just thinking." "Enough." Elias Gu cut her off before she could finish, clenching his fists. His tone carried a desperation he didn't even realize he had. "No one is allowed to touch anything in the storage room. I'll go check on it myself." After saying that, he walked straight toward the storage room, leaving Lily Xia and the mother-in-law staring at each other in silence. The mother-in-law couldn't help but mutter, "That child. Why does he still care so much about that woman's things?" As soon as the storage room door opened, a wave of musty air rushed out. My old belongings were neatly stacked in the corner, arranged by the servants, some unread books I hadn't taken, handmade ornaments, and several sweaters I'd knitted myself. Elias Gu crouched down, his fingertips brushing over an off-white cashmere sweater. That was the one I'd stayed up late to knit for him during the winter of the year I married him. But he'd once complained it was too outdated and wore it only once before tossing it aside. Now, running his hand over the soft fleece, a sharp pang of sorrow welled up in his chest. He casually flipped through the cardboard box beside it, which mostly contained my personal items, until he found a small locked wooden box, his old birthday gift to me, one that had always held things I cherished. After fumbling around for a while, He found the spare key at the bottom of the box and gave it a gentle turn. The lock clicked open. Inside the wooden box, the first thing that caught his eye was a thick stack of medical records, their covers bearing my name. He grabbed one at random and opened it, his pupils instantly contracting. It was my stomach condition treatment report, filled with dense medical records that extended back to the first year I'd married into the Gu family, the most recent entry. It was just the night before he took Lily Xia skiing abroad. The doctor's diagnosis read, acute gastric spasm, accompanied by threat of miscarriage, requires immediate bed rest and fetal protection, strictly avoid emotional fluctuations, threaten miscarriage. Elias Gu's voice began to tremble. He hurriedly rummaged through the box and, sure enough, found a neatly folded pregnancy test report beneath the medical records. The date on it was half a month earlier than the night of the ski trip, indicating I was 6 weeks pregnant. The pregnancy test report in his hand suddenly felt scalding, as if it were about to burn through his palm. In his mind, a loud buzz echoed, and all the previous images surged back. The night before skiing, I was curled on the floor, my face pale, clutching his sleeve, begging him to take me to the hospital, but he thought I was being unreasonable, shoved the medicine Lily Xia had given me into my hand, and even scolded me for holding him back. Back then, I was not only enduring excruciating stomach pain, but also struggling through the discomfort of pregnancy, while he only cared about his ski plans with Lily Xia, not offering a single word of concern. Elias Gu's hands began to tremble uncontrollably. He dug out another bill from the box, records of the medical checkup I had gone through alone, dated exactly on the third day of his skiing trip abroad with Lily Xia. Next to the bill was a doctor's note that read, embryo unstable. Early signs of mild miscarriage, requires full-time family companion and rest, but the signature section for the family member was blank, bearing only my solitary signature. He finally realized the suffering I had endured in those days before I left. He thought I was just throwing a tantrum, that I had run away from home because he favored Lily Xia, but he had no idea that I was not only bearing physical pain, but also the risk of losing the child and a heart full of resentment. Cough, cough. Elias Gu suddenly coughed violently, a bittersweet taste rising in his throat. He staggered back a step, crashing his back hard against the wall. The wooden box fell to the floor, its contents spilling everywhere. Just then, Luma happened to pass by the storage room door, seeing the scene inside, and hurried in to support him. Sir, are you all right? Elias Gu pointed at the pregnancy test and medical records on the ground, his voice hoarse and his eyes red with emotion. Mrs. Lu, She was pregnant back then, wasn't she? Why didn't you tell me? Mrs. Lu looked at the paper on the ground, her eyes turning red. She sighed, finally bringing out the words she had been holding in for so long. Sir, Madam knew you were completely focused on Miss Xia back then. She feared that if you found out, you wouldn't care. She thought you might even make her abort the child. The night before the skiing trip, she fainted from the pain once. I secretly took her to the hospital. The doctor said the baby could not be saved. After she returned from the hospital, she lost all hope, and left the next day after packing her things. Can't hold on. Elias Gu repeated these words, as if drained of all strength, collapsing to the ground, his hands gripping his hair tightly, regret flooding over him like a tide, completely overwhelming him. He remembered the 3 years since I married into the family. Whenever he came home late from overtime, I would wait for him until late at night, leaving a bowl of hot soup for him. I remembered how I silently took medicine every time my stomach hurt, never complaining in front of him. I remembered how, when I gave my mother-in-law the donkey-hide glue cake I had made myself, only to be publicly scorned, the disappointment and grievance in my eyes. He always thought I was gentle, submissive, and couldn't live without him. But he never truly cared about what I wanted or asked how much pain I had endured. He pushed away the person who genuinely loved him, while holding a false, insincere woman in high regard. Even after I lost my child and left in despair, he still prepared for a betrothal banquet with another woman. I'm an asshole. I'm just a damn fool. Elias Gu pounded his chest violently, his voice trembling with sobs as tears streamed down his face. It was the first time in his adult life he had cried, not from business failure, not from family pressure, but because he had destroyed his own happiness and lost the woman who loved him most. Lily Xia, standing at the door of the storage room, had heard everything. Her face turned deathly pale, and she instinctively tried to retreat, but Elias Gu still spotted her. Elias Gu snapped his head up, his eyes filled with such hatred that it seemed to consume her. He staggered to his feet, pointing an angry finger at her and roaring, get out of the Gu family. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have left, and my child wouldn't have been lost." Lily Xia was so scared her legs went weak, crying, "Elias brother, I didn't mean to. I didn't know she was pregnant at that time. Please forgive me." "Okay, forgiveness." Elias Gu let out a cold laugh, his voice as icy as frost. "When you and my mom forced her out, did you ever think this day would come? From now on, you're not allowed to set foot in the Gu household again. Don't even dream about the engagement banquet." The mother-in-law heard the commotion and hurried over, quickly shielding Lily Xia. "Elias, what are you doing? Lily hasn't done anything wrong." "Haven't done anything wrong." Elias Gu turned to his mother-in-law, his eyes filled with disappointment. "Mom, it was you and her together who drove Elena away, who forced my child out. Are you satisfied now?" The mother-in-law was silenced by his words, gazing at the medical records and pregnancy test papers scattered on the ground. Finally realizing the mistake she had made, her face turned deathly pale in an instant. Elias Gu no longer paid attention to them. He simply crouched down, carefully picking up my medical records and pregnancy test results, gently brushing away the dust as if holding some priceless treasure. He hugged them tightly against his chest, his body trembling uncontrollably, the regret and pain in his heart nearly tearing him apart. The autumn chill deepened in Nanchang, and my Elena makeup studio had firmly established itself. Not only did we secure long-term collaborations with 3 wedding planning companies, but we also became the designated makeup team for several local celebrities. That afternoon, Ivy Lin burst excitedly into my office, clutching a letter of intent, her eyes shining like stars. Ivy Lin exclaimed excitedly, "MS Shin, great news. Gu Group's Nanching branch is planning a high-end new product launch event and needs a professional makeup and styling team. They found us through manager Wang's wedding company and want to talk about a long-term partnership." My pen paused for a moment. The words Gu Group prickled my mind like a fine needle, a brief sting. But I quickly composed myself. I took the letter of intent and flipped through it. The details were clear. Gu Group's new product was a high-end skincare line, and the launch event required full makeup and styling for models and guests. The requirements were extremely high, and the budget was substantial. I paused for a few seconds, then looked up at Ivy Lin. "Who's the contact person? When are we meeting?" "They said Gu Group's headquarters will send a senior executive." Ivy Lin paused, then added, "Mr. Shin, the Gu Group is the industry leader. If we secure this collaboration, our studio's reputation will shoot straight to the top across the whole province." I nodded, already making my decision. Elias Gu's company reaching out wasn't a coincidence. It was the inevitable next step in my career's development, and the first move in my comeback. I wouldn't run away. Instead, I would confront him head-on, letting him see that the woman he once controlled was no longer someone he could manipulate. The next morning, I deliberately changed into a sharp black business suit, cut my hair into a neat, short style, and wore a pair of thin-framed glasses, completely different from my gentle long-haired look when I was at the Gu household. That was exactly the contrast I wanted, so even if he stood in front of me, he wouldn't recognize me. Arriving at the Gu Group's Nan City branch, The receptionist guided us to the meeting room on the top floor. The moment I pushed the door open, I instantly spotted Elias Gu seated at the head of the table. He was wearing a custom-made dark gray suit, his head completely focused on giving instructions to his assistant. His profile was still as sharp and cold as ever, but there was a hint of fatigue in his expression. Probably from how exhausted he must have been from searching for me. He looked up at the sound. His gaze scanning over Ivy Lin and me, he lingered on my face for 2 seconds before quickly looking away. Clearly, he didn't recognize me. The project manager from Gu Group stood up first, smiling and extending his hand. Ms. Shin, good to see you. I'm Zhang Chang, the project director of the Gu Group's Nan City branch. This is our CEO from the group headquarters, Mr. Gu. I reached out and shook his hand, my tone calm and distant. Good afternoon, Director Zhang. I'm Elena Shin from Elena Makeup, and this is my team lead, Ivy Lin. I deliberately lowered my voice slightly, adopting a professional, chilly tone, completely different from the soft, sweet voice I used at home. When Elias Gu heard my name, his brow twitched almost imperceptibly, as if the name sounded familiar, but he didn't dwell on it. He stood up, looking down at me from above, and extended his hand. Ms. Shin, nice to meet you. I didn't avoid it, but quickly brushed my fingertips against his hand before pulling back, avoiding his eyes the entire time. My tone remained strictly professional. Mr. Gu, I've heard much about you. The moment our fingertips touched, Elias Gu's body stiffened. He stared at my profile, his gaze filled with a hint of confusion. He couldn't shake the feeling that this woman was oddly familiar, especially the faint scar on her wrist, which he thought he'd seen somewhere before, though he couldn't recall where. The meeting officially began. Zhang Cheng first introduced the requirements for the new product launch, then passed the floor to Elias Gu. Elias Gu looked at me, his tone carrying the air of someone in authority. Ms. Shin, we're aware that your studio has a good reputation. However, this launch is a key project for the group, with extremely high standards. Do you believe your team is capable of handling it? I didn't answer directly. Instead, I had Ivy Lin project the high-end event cases we'd previously worked on onto the screen, from celebrity red carpet styling to luxury brand launch makeup concepts. Every example was meticulously crafted, professional, and rich in detail. Ivy Lin finished her introduction before I slowly spoke up. Mr. Gu, although our studio has been established for a short time, our team members all have over 5 years of experience in high-end makeup. This is proof of our capability. As for whether we're qualified, I believe results speak louder than words. Elias Gu looked at the case on the screen, his scrutinizing gaze softening slightly, replaced with a hint of approval. He posed another question. This launch event will have 15 models and 8 guests, with tight time and heavy tasks. Can you guarantee the unity and uniqueness of the styling? Of course. I took out the pre-prepared proposal and slid it in front of him. These are 3 makeup concepts I designed based on your brand's skincare positioning, featuring a fresh, natural nude makeup style. It highlights the skin-nourishing effects of your products while aligning with the upscale tone of the launch event. Each model and guest's look will be finely adjusted according to their individual features. Absolutely no one-size-fits-all approach. Elias Gu picked up the proposal and flipped through it. The design details on the document were precise and professional. Even the most meticulous aspects had been considered. His doubts slightly eased, yet that sense of familiarity grew stronger. He stared at the way I held the pen. This was the very posture he had been most familiar with before. It was the same posture I used when knitting sweaters for him or writing notes at home. He couldn't help but ask, "Did Mr. Shin used to develop business in North City?" "I feel like I've seen you somewhere before," I internally sneered, but kept my expression imperceptible as I lifted the water glass on the table and took a sip, hiding the mockery in my eyes. "Mr. Gu, you're joking. I've always been developing in South City. Maybe it's because I have an average-looking face, and you're mistaken." Ivy Lin, sitting beside me, quickly stepped in to ease the tension. "Mr. Gu, our Mr. Shin is a native beauty design genius from South City. He even studied at the university there. He's never been to North City. Elias Gu furrowed his brow and stopped pressing further, but the suspicion in his mind hadn't vanished. He felt certain that this Elena Shin not only looked familiar, but even the faint scent of gardenia on her was familiar. Yet he clearly remembered that Elena Shin had always loved gardenias most, while the woman before him, the regal lady of the Gu family, was clearly not the same person as the one who'd waited at home for him. For the rest of the negotiation, I maintained a professional yet distant demeanor, proposing terms that were quite stringent. In addition to the standard service fee, I demanded an extra charge for design copyrights, and insisted that our team's working hours and workspace be fully managed by us, with no interference from the Gu group. Hearing these conditions, Zhang Chang looked visibly uncomfortable. Ms. Shin, aren't your requirements a bit too demanding? None of the beauty teams we've worked with have ever asked for such high demands. I put down my pen and spoke with unwavering authority. Director Zhang, our design proposals are custom-made and exclusive. Copyright fees are well justified. As for work arrangements, we can only achieve the best results if our working environment remains untouched. If Gu Group cannot accept this, then this collaboration will have to be terminated. With that, I rose from my seat as if to leave. Ivy Lin also stood up, but her heart was pounding with anxiety, fearing the deal might fall apart. Just then, Elias Gu suddenly spoke up. I accept the terms. We'll proceed with the cooperation as Mr. Shin requested. Everyone was stunned, and Zhang Chang stared at him in disbelief. Mr. Gu, this. Elias Gu ignored Zhang Chang, only fixing his gaze on me. His eyes filled with inquiry. I believe Mr. Shin's team has the capability. I hope our cooperation goes smoothly. I curled my lips slightly, offering a standardized smile. To a successful cooperation, after signing the contract, I didn't linger, turning on my heels and walking away with Ivy Lin. As we reached the door, I deliberately slowed my pace, hearing Elias Gu ask Zhang Chang behind me, "Have you checked the background of this Elena Shin?" Zhang Chang replied, "I've checked. She's from an ordinary family, studied beauty design in college, and has no special background. Her studio was also just established recently." A colder smile curled at my lips. From an ordinary family, he probably never imagined that the Mrs. Gu, whom he once discarded like a rag, was now standing right before him, and had become a collaborator he had no choice but to take seriously. Once in the car, Ivy Lin finally let out a breath of relief and said excitedly, "Mr. Shin, you're amazing, even with such demanding conditions." Mr. Gu actually agreed. Now our studio is really going to take off. I stared at the sign of the Gu Group building outside the window, my gaze turning cold. This is just the beginning. The real show is yet to come. Not even 2 days after the cooperation between Elena Beauty Studio and Gu Group was finalized, I was leading my team to style a celebrity preparing for a red carpet event. The studio was buzzing with activity when Ivy Lin suddenly rushed in from the doorway, flustered, and leaned close to my ear to whisper, "Ms. Shin, something's wrong. 2 women have arrived at the entrance. One looks quite refined and the other is dressed delicately, very fragile looking, and they're saying they want to see you." They're speaking in such a confrontational tone I couldn't stop them. My makeup brush paused for a second in my hand. In an instant, I knew exactly who they could be. Besides my mother-in-law and Lily Xia, who else would dare to come here so brazenly? I put down the brush, smiled apologetically at the celebrity, and said, "Excuse me, I need to take care of some personal business. I'll be right back. Ivy Lin, you take over for now." The celebrity was understanding and waved him hand. "Go ahead, Ms. Shin. I'm not in a hurry." I straightened my professional outfit, my face cold as I walked toward the entrance. Just as I reached the reception area, I saw my mother-in-law standing there with her hands on her hips, Lily Xia was leaning against her, her eyes red-rimmed, looking as though she had suffered an immense injustice. Several clients who had come to try makeup were secretly watching them, whispering and pointing. As soon as she saw me coming out, my mother-in-law exploded, pointing at my nose and yelling, "Are you the boss of this Elena Beauty Salon? Let me tell you, cancel your partnership with the Gu family immediately, and get rid of those ridiculous demands." Our Gu family's money didn't fall from the sky. Her voice was shrill, instantly drawing everyone's attention in the studio. Even the celebrity currently being made up peered out to see what was going on. I didn't rush to defend myself. Instead, I calmly walked forward, crossed my arms, and shot her a mocking look. "Ma'am, do I know you? What gives you the right to come into my studio and order me around?" My words caught her off guard, and immediately she grew even angrier. Her chest rising and falling with fury. "I'm Elias Gu's mother. She paused mid-sentence, suddenly remembering that my current identity hadn't been revealed yet, and she choked back the words "former mother-in-law." Instead, she raised her voice. "I'm the mother of the president of the Gu Group. How dare a tiny little studio like yours make such outrageous demands to us Gu family? You clearly don't want to stay in South City anymore." Lily Xia spoke up at the right moment. Her voice soft and trembling with a hint of tears. "Mr. Shen, we know your studio hasn't been easy, but your conditions are simply too harsh. Brother Elias has been working himself to the bone lately for the company's sake. Please, show some leniency and consider him." Her words appeared to be pleading, but in reality, she was implying that I was targeting Elias Gu, trying to draw sympathy by playing the victim. I let out a cold laugh and swept my gaze over her deliberately fragile face. "Miss Xia, right, my cooperation with the Gu family is a business matter, based on capability and terms, not on sympathy or goodwill. Besides, I remember Mr. Gu readily agreed to our terms without any reluctance. How come now? It's his family coming to pressure us." The mother-in-law turned pale with rage. She never expected me to be so unyielding. She reached out, ready to shove me. "You're clearly not taking a hint. Today, if you don't agree, I'll smash this rickety studio." I had anticipated this. I sidestepped her hand and my tone grew icy. "Madam, I advise you to show some respect. My studio operates legally. If you dare to lay a finger on me, I'll call the police immediately. Then, word of the Gu Group's president's mother causing trouble in South City will surely spread throughout the business community. Do you think that will reflect well on Mr. Gu?" That remark hit the grandmother right in her weak spot. Her greatest concern was preserving the Gu family's reputation. She froze on the spot, pulling her outstretched hand back, her chest still heaving heavily. I didn't give her a chance to catch her breath. I turned around, pulled a stack of photos from the desk drawer, and flung them onto the coffee table in front of her. The photos were full of her past distinguished deeds, images of her publicly disdainfully rejecting the donkey-hide gelatin cakes I had personally prepared at a family gathering, while lavishly praising the supplements Lily Xia had given her, shots of her pointing at me and scolding me for being petty and narrow-minded, and pictures of her having Lily Xia move into my bedroom and piling my belongings into the storage room. All crystal clear, each one secretly captured and sent to me by Mrs. Liu. I pointed at the photos, my voice quiet but loud enough for everyone present to hear. "You keep accusing me of going after the Gu family, then first take a look at these photos. When I was still the wife of the Gu family, how did you side with Miss Xia and push me down? Now you're turning around and asking me to be understanding toward Mr. Gu. Do you think that's fair?" The clients around us, seeing the photos, immediately started murmuring. One quietly said, "So this old woman is Mr. Gu's mother. She looks so unreasonable, clearly favoring the mistress and bullying the legitimate wife." "Exactly. Our studio negotiates collaborations based on merit, but she comes here making a scene. It's just too undignified." These murmurs pierced like needles into the hearts of both the mother-in-law and Lily Xia. The mother-in-law's face flushed and turned pale in succession. Wishing desperately she could sink into a crack in the ground, Lily Xia, meanwhile, buried her head low. Too afraid to meet the glances around her, her earlier pretense of fragility finally shattered completely. I pressed on, seizing one of the photos, a screenshot from Lily Xia's social media post after moving into my bedroom. Miss Xia, you're occupying someone else's room, using their belongings, and spreading rumors behind their back. Now you followed me to my studio to beg for mercy. Don't you feel any shame? Lily Xia's shoulders trembled. She choked back a sob, saying, I didn't. None of that was voluntary, not voluntary. I raised an eyebrow, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Then why didn't you say it wasn't voluntary when you moved into my bedroom and showed it off on social media? Why didn't you say it wasn't voluntary when you accepted your mother-in-law's expensive jewelry and acted like a future daughter-in-law at work? Lily Xia was left speechless by my retort, her tears falling more heavily, yet she couldn't utter a single word in reply. Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, the mother-in-law hurried forward to shield Lily Xia, her voice weakening. The past is the past. We're here to discuss cooperation. Don't keep harping on it. The past, I sneered. I can let it go. But can my unborn child who didn't survive go? As soon as those words were spoken, the entire studio fell deathly silent, with everyone's eyes immediately fixed on the grandmother and Lily Xia. Their faces turned pale, especially the grandmother, whose lips trembled and could not utter a single word. I looked at their disheveled appearance, feeling not the slightest pity, only a sense of ecstatic satisfaction from having finally avenged myself. I took a step forward, lowering my voice but with an overwhelming sense of menace. Go back and tell Elias Gu that none of the cooperation terms can be changed. If they want to talk, they'll have to follow the rules. If they dare to send family members to cause trouble again, I'll immediately terminate the partnership and expose these photos and all the dirt about your Gu family to the media. Let's see whose loss will be greater then. My grandmother was frightened by my demeanor and took 2 steps back, her eyes filled with fear and embarrassment. She knew I meant what I said. If the story really got out, the Gu family's reputation would be completely ruined. She gritted her teeth, grabbed Lily Xia's arm, and practically fled. Let's go. The two stumbled out of the studio without looking back, and the surrounding clients suddenly erupted into applause. The female celebrity just now even smiled at me and gave me a thumbs up. Mr. Shen, amazing. You have to be tough like that when dealing with people like this. I smiled, saying nothing more, just asked Ivy Lin to put away the photo on the coffee table, then turned back to the makeup area to continue styling the female star, as if nothing had happened just now. But only I knew that those words were not just for my mother-in-law and Lily Xia, they were also for Elias Gu. I wanted him to know that I, Elena Shen, was no longer a soft target anyone could manipulate. What he and the Gu family owe me, I will take back, bit by bit. In full, Ivy Lin leaned in and whispered, Miss Shen, you were so impressive just now. You silenced them completely, so satisfying. My makeup brush settled steadily at the corner of the star's eye, and I said calmly, that was just a small interest. The real accounting hasn't even begun yet. The signing ceremony for the Gu Group's new product launch event was scheduled at the VIP meeting room of the Nanjing International Convention and Exhibition Center. Early that morning, the venue was decorated with great pomp and circumstance. Representatives from the Gu Group's senior management and partner organizations arrived one after another, while I, along with Ivy Lin and key members of the core team, arrived half an hour early to make preparations. I was still wearing that sleek black business suit, but today I wasn't wearing my glasses, and my long hair was tied into a high ponytail, revealing a faint scar on my wrist. That was left from when I accidentally burned myself while making soup for Elias Gu years ago. And it was a flaw I deliberately exposed, At 9:50, Elias Gu walked into the meeting room with his team. His face still looked haggard, with more red bloodshot eyes than last time we met, clearly indicating he had been staying up late these past few days searching for me. As soon as he entered, his gaze locked directly onto me, an even deeper sense of inquiry in his eyes. Probably because his mother-in-law and Lily Xia had returned and reported to him, and he had secretly dug into my background. The signing ceremony officially began, with Zhang Cheng first stepping onto the stage to introduce the specifics of the cooperation, followed by the moment for both sides to sign. Elias Gu and I walked side by side to the signing table. His gaze remained fixed on the scar on my wrist, and his breathing began to grow rapid. I picked up the pen, about to write, when Elias Gu suddenly grabbed my wrist with such force that I couldn't help but wince. Elias Gu's voice trembled distinctly, laced with disbelief. This scar, who exactly are you? Are you Elena? As soon as he spoke, the conference room fell instantly silent, all eyes turning sharply toward the two of us. Even the camera shutter stopped clicking. I slowly raised my head, shaking off his hand. A cold smile curved my lips as I finally dropped the pretense, reverting to the tone I used at home, still distant, but clear enough for him to confirm my identity. Mr. Gu, you've recognized me so quickly. Seems you haven't completely forgotten me yet. It's really you. Elias Gu's eyes lit up instantly, then were instantly drowned in deep regret and ecstasy. He took a step forward to embrace me, but I sidestepped and avoided him. Elias Gu pleaded urgently, Elena, I've been looking for you for so long. Why have you been avoiding me? Please come back. I know I was wrong. I'll treat you well from now on. Let's start over. His voice trembled with tears, his posture completely humble, completely lacking the aloof demeanor of the CEO he once was, but to me, it sounded utterly ironic. I ignored his heartfelt confession and simply picked up the microphone on the table, letting my voice echo through the entire meeting room. Everyone must be curious about the relationship between me and Mr. Gu, so let me tell you clearly, I'm not only Elena Shen, the owner of Elena Cosmetics, but also Mr. Gu's ex-wife, who was forced out by him and his mother after 3 years of marriage. As soon as those words escaped my mouth, the conference room erupted into chaos. Camera flashes from reporters flashed uncontrollably, while senior executives whispered to each other, their eyes filled with shock. Elias Gu's face turned pale instantly. He hurriedly stepped forward, trying to grab the microphone from my hands. Elena, don't say nonsense. That's not how it happened. Let me explain. Am I lying? I sidestepped his hand and pulled a thick stack of documents from my bag. I first slammed the pregnancy test and the medical record in front of him. Take a good look. This is my pregnancy test showing 6 weeks of pregnancy. This is my medical record for acute gastric spasms with signs of miscarriage. The date, exactly the night before you took Lily Xia abroad for skiing. Where were you then? You were with your lover, complaining that I wasn't mature enough, scolding me for holding you back. The pregnancy test and medical records were projected onto the large screen behind, the dates and diagnoses clearly visible. Everyone in the room could see them perfectly. The murmurs in the conference room grew even louder. Elias Gu staggered back a step, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word, regret and pain on his face almost overflowing. I didn't stop. I pulled out photos of my mother-in-law publicly belittling my donkey-hide gelatin cake and favoring Lily Xia, along with evidence of Lily Xia moving into my bedroom, and projected them one by one onto the big screen. This is your mother at a family gathering, completely dismissing the donkey-hide gelatin cake I personally made, yet treating Lily Xia's gifts as precious treasures. This is her allowing Lily Xia to move into my bedroom and tossing my belongings into the storage room. And this is a screenshot from Lily Xia's WeChat circle, bragging about moving into my room. Each photo struck like a slap across Elias Gu and the Gu family's face. The camera shutters clicked incessantly, and even the top executives of Gu Group couldn't help but lower their heads, clearly aware this was too disgraceful. Looking at Elias Gu, whose face had turned deathly pale, I continued, "Do you know why I suddenly disappeared? It was because of your and your mother's favoritism. Because of Lily Xiao relentlessly pressuring me, and most importantly, because I collapsed from pain that day and was taken to the hospital by Mrs. Liu. The doctor told me the baby couldn't be saved. While I was alone at the hospital signing papers, you and Lily Xiao were cozying up on a snowy slope overseas. Tell me, why should I have stayed in the Gu family? The child is gone." Elias Gu repeated those words, his legs giving way, nearly collapsing to the ground. He stared intently at the pregnancy test result on the large screen, tears streaming down his face uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, Elena. I really didn't know. If I had known, I would never have, never what." I cut him off, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Never take Lily Xia abroad, or never call me childish, Elias Gu. Don't delude yourself. If you truly cared about me, you wouldn't have ignored my stomach illness for 3 years. And you wouldn't have chosen to defend a stranger when I needed you most." At that moment, Lily Xia suddenly burst through the door. She must have come after, concerned about the situation. Seeing the scene, her face turned pale instantly. She rushed to Elias Gu's side and cried, "Elias brother, please explain to Sister Elena quickly. This is all a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to." Meanwhile, I raised an eyebrow and took out another recording, pressing play. It was a conversation between Lily Xia and my mother-in-law. Lily Xiao's voice came out of the speaker. "Auntie, don't worry. I'll make sure Elena Shen gets kicked out of the Gu family as soon as possible. Then brother Elias will be mine, and I'll have a share of the Gu family's fortune." The mother-in-law's voice followed immediately. "Good girl. Just hearing those words from you makes me feel relieved. That girl Elena Shen is just a hopeless loser. She can't compare to how attentive and considerate you are." As soon as the recording ended, the entire conference room erupted into chaos. Reporters swarmed toward Elias Gu and Lily Xia, bombarding them with frantic questions. The top executives of Gu Corporation turned deathly pale, clearly unprepared for such a catastrophic scandal. Elias Gu violently shoved Lily Xia away, his eyes filled with disgust. "Get away from me. I was so blind to ever trust you." Lily Xia was pushed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, yet no one pitied her anymore. I looked at the chaotic scene before me, feeling not a trace of emotion, only a deep sense of satisfaction from having finally gotten my revenge. I picked up the contract that was only half signed, tore it to shreds in front of everyone, and threw the pieces at Elias Gu's feet. "Mr. Gu, our cooperation ends here. Even if my studio shuts down, Elena Shen, will never again collaborate with someone as heartless and cowardly as you. One who tolerates his family mistreating the rightful wife." After that, I turned to the reporters and partners present and bowed deeply. "I apologize for turning this into a farce. From today, Elena Cosmetics officially terminates all partnerships with the Gu Group. A formal statement will be released subsequently." Then, with my team by my side, I walked out of the conference room with my head held high, leaving behind a scene of utter devastation and the sound of Elias Gu's desperate, regretful sobs, walking to the entrance of the convention center. Ivy Lin excitedly grabbed my hand. "Mr. Shen, you are so awesome. That scene just now was absolutely satisfying." I looked at the distant sky, the sunlight perfect, and the stone that had weighed on my heart for 3 years finally came down completely. When I returned to the studio with my team, the online backlash had already exploded. The chaos in the meeting room was exposed by reporters across major platforms. The news of Gu Group's president favoring a mistress during his marriage and forcing his wife to leave, resulting in her miscarriage, instantly shot to the top of the trending charts. The Gu Group's stock price plummeted 15 points at the opening, and the board's disciplinary calls nearly overloaded Elias Gu's phone. I had just sat down and taken a sip of water when Ivy Lin rushed over with her tablet. her voice brimming with suppressed excitement. Mr. Shin, come take a look. Gu's stock price has plummeted, and so many netizens are calling Lily Xia a scheming mistress, scold Gu as a scumbag. Even Gu's elderly mother has been exposed. People are saying she's a son-preferring, biased mother who favors the mistress. I glanced at the comments on the tablet, mostly condemnation of Gu Jia and sympathy for me. And a cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. This wasn't enough. Lily Xia owed me far more than just this backlash from public opinion. I would make her pay for her actions, legally. Just then, the studio door burst open abruptly. Lily Xia stormed in, her hair disheveled, her makeup smeared, nowhere near the gentle, charming appearance she usually presented. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging almost painfully into my flesh. Lily Xia shrieked hysterically, "Elena Shin, it's you. You did this to me. Why did you expose everything? Do you hate me that much?" I yanked my arm free, stepping back with a look of utter disgust. "I did this to you, Lily Xia. When you did those things, did you ever think this day would come?" I turned and took out a USB drive from the safe, throwing it onto the table in front of her. "Don't you want to know why I hate you so much? Read what's inside yourself. See what you've done." Lily Xia stared at the USB drive, her face turning pale instantly, and her body began to tremble uncontrollably. Clearly, she knew what was inside. At that moment, Elias Gu stormed into the studio, seemingly just coming from a board meeting. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, and the disgust in his gaze as he looked at Lily Xia nearly overflowed. Elias Gu shouted loudly, "Lily Xia, get over here." Lily Xia seemed to have seized a lifeline, rushing to his front and crying, "Elias brother, you have to believe me. Elena Shin framed me. Those things weren't done by me. Whether you did it or not, we'll see." I walked to the computer, plugged in the USB drive, then turned on the projector, displaying its contents on the large screen. The first file on the disk is a surveillance video showing the kitchen of the Gu family villa. On the very night I had stomach pain before skiing. In the footage, Lily Xia sneaks in while Mrs. Lu isn't looking, secretly replacing my usual stomach medicine with a drug of the opposite effect. She even smirks at the camera, muttering, "Elena Shin. Just wait until you die of pain. Elias brother is mine, and the Gu family's position is mine too." This video was discovered by Lu Ma later when she was cleaning up the kitchen surveillance footage, and she deliberately saved it and sent it to me. It was the final straw that broke me. Elias Gu's pupils narrowed instantly as he saw the video. He abruptly turned to Lily Xia, his voice brimming with rage. "You switched her medication." I knew why her stomach pain that day was so severe, why she couldn't even keep the baby. "It was you who did this." Lily Xia was so scared that her legs went weak, collapsing onto the ground, stammering in defense. "I didn't. I just wanted to make her feel a little uncomfortable. I didn't expect it to turn out like that. Didn't expect that." I let out a cold laugh, then opened the second file. It was a chat record between Lily Xia and her cousin, filled with their conspiracy to siphon off assets from Gu's subsidiary companies. Lily Xia's cousin is the finance director of the Gu Group's subsidiary. Together, they embezzled millions of yuan in public funds within just half a year. Their chat records also stated that once Lily Xia married Elias Gu, they would transfer the core assets of the Gu Group and claim them for themselves. "You not only schemed against me, but dared to scheme against the Gu family's fortune." Elias Gu's voice trembled. He never in his wildest dreams imagined that the woman he cherished would be a complete fraud, someone who had not only destroyed his family but also wanted to ruin his company. I didn't stop, and opened the third file. This one was a complete recording of Lily Xia sowing discord between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. In the recording, she repeatedly spoke ill of me in front of her mother-in-law, at one point claiming I was secretly transferring Shin family assets, at another accusing me of having illicit relationships with other men, and even forging photos of me eating with a man of the opposite sex, everything designed to make the mother-in-law utterly despise me and drive me out of the Gu household. Each recording, each piece of evidence, struck Lily Xiao like a heavy hammer, and also tore into Elias Gu's heart. The studio staff stared in shock. And Ivy Lin was so furious she clenched her fists. This Lily Xiao is utterly vicious. Not only did she switch the medicine and cause Mr. Shen to miscarry, but now she's trying to drain the Gu family's money. She's as cold-hearted as a snake or scorpion. Lily Xiao completely collapsed, kneeling on the ground as she wept in kowtow. Elias, brother, I was wrong. I truly was wrong. Please give me one more chance, okay? I will never dare again. Opportunity. Elias Gu crouched down, his eyes filled with cold hatred. You took Elena's child, nearly killed her. And now you want to drain my company. Do you think I'd give you a chance? He stood up, took out his phone, and dialed the emergency number directly, his tone frighteningly calm. Hello, police station. I want to report a case. Someone intentionally switched medications to deliberately harm others, and is also suspected of embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. I have evidence. The address is Lily Xia. Hearing the words alarm, was terrified. Rushed forward to snatch Elias Gu's phone, but was kicked away by Elias Gu and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. You can't call the police. If you do, I'm finished. Lily Xia cried out, her voice hoarse. Brother Elias, I've given so much for you. You can't do this to me. You're sacrificing for me. Elias Gu sneered. All you've sacrificed are your calculations and malice. From now on, I have nothing to do with you. You'll not only face legal responsibility, but also return every penny you embezzled. Otherwise, I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison. Soon, the police arrived at the studio. Upon seeing the evidence on the big screen, they immediately handcuffed Lily Xia. As Lily Xia was being taken away, she kept screaming Elias Gu's name frantically, but Elias Gu didn't even glance at her, his eyes devoid of any compassion. After the police left, the studio fell into silence. Elias Gu turned around, looking at me with eyes full of regret and plea. Elena, I know I was wrong. I know I owe you so much. Can you give me one more chance to make amends? I gazed at his haggard appearance, feeling not a trace of emotion. When he chose to side with Lily Xia and ignore me, he should have known this day would come. I walked up to him, my tone calm but carrying an unyielding resolve. Elias Gu, our relationship ended long ago. The moment you left for skiing abroad with Lily Xia. The moment I lost my child. It was over. Your regret now means nothing to me. I paused, then continued. Also, I've already drawn up the divorce agreement. The money the Gu family lent the Shen family back then, I'll return it in full. I'll leave with nothing, but I just want to sever all ties with the Gu family. No debts, no favors, nothing. Elias Gu's face turned deathly pale. He stumbled back a step, his lips trembling. Leaving with nothing, Elena. Don't you even give me a chance. I can transfer Gu Group shares to you. I can compensate you. No need. I cut him off. Elena Shen can live perfectly well on my own now. Your shares, your compensation, I don't want any of it. All I want is peace, a life completely free from you, and the Gu family. After saying that, I took out a signed divorce agreement from the drawer and placed it in front of him. Sign it. It's better for both of us. Elias Gu looked at the divorce agreement, and tears fell at that moment. His phone rang again. It was the board of directors. In the call, the directors harshly scolded him, saying they would remove him from his position as president and hold him accountable for poor management, damage to the company's reputation, and misappropriation of assets. Elias Gu answered the phone in a daze, his whole body collapsing. He looked at me, his eyes filled with despair. Elias Gu stared at the divorce papers on his desk, his fingers hovering over the signature line for a long time. The knuckles turning white from tension, he looked up at me, the red veins in his eyes and the haggard look on his face betraying his regret, but I felt no stir of emotion inside. I just looked at him calmly, waiting for him to sign. Elias Gu said hoarsely, Elena, really can't you give me one more chance? I can transfer half of the shares of Gu Group to you. I can, no need. I cut him off, my tone flat and unchanging. What I've never wanted was the shares of Gu's company. Nor your compensation. I just want to completely sever all ties with you and the Gu family, starting now. We're nothing to each other. Elias Gu's tears finally fell. He picked up the pen, trembling as he signed his name on the agreement, each stroke seeming to cost him every ounce of strength. After signing, he threw the pen onto the table, covering his face with his hands, stifled sobs escaping through his fingers. But I didn't even spare him another glance. I picked up the signed agreement and turned to leave. Stepping out of the studio, I went straight to the bank and transferred the money that the Gu family had once helped the Shen family with, principal and interest, into Elias Gu's account, along with a message, all settled. After doing all this, I felt utterly light, as if Unload declared that I was responsible for managing the family's finances. Before long, Luma sent me a message, her tone tinged with lamentation. She said that after signing the divorce agreement, Elias Gu was summoned by the board of directors for accountability. Not only was he removed from his position as president, but most of his shares were frozen as well. He could only watch helplessly as control of the Gu group fell into the hands of distant relatives. Meanwhile, his mother-in-law, having favored Lily Xia and allowed her to drain company assets, had brought disgrace upon the Gu family. She was sternly reprimanded by the elder members of the family, stripped of her authority as housekeeper, and sent to the countryside estate to reflect on her faults behind closed doors. Her former glory entirely vanished. Luma added, "Madam, no, mission, master now stays in your old bedroom every day, staring blankly at your old belongings. He's lost a lot of weight, but what good does it do? It's all his own doing." Looking at that message, I simply replied, "Take care of yourself," and then closed the chat window. As the days passed, my Elena Beauty Studio reached a breakthrough phase, thanks to my firm stance during the confrontation with the Gu family, and the studio's undeniable capabilities. Numerous brands proactively approached us for collaboration. Even high-end international beauty brands invited us to become their exclusive styling team in China. Ivy Lin rushed into my office excitedly, holding the letter of intent, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mr. Shen, the Asia-Pacific regional head of the world-renowned beauty brand Elle has come in person, wanting to establish a long-term strategic partnership with us, and even invited you to serve as the chief design consultant for their new products." I took the letter and flipped through it. The terms of cooperation were extremely favorable, promising to boost the studio's international reputation while allowing the team to access top-tier technology and resources. I smiled and nodded, "Accept it, but make sure our core design philosophy is included in the partnership terms. Our uniqueness must not be lost." Ivy Lin cheered and immediately turned to handle the arrangements. Watching her jubilant figure walk away, I stepped onto the balcony and gazed at the lush orchid plant. When I first brought it out from the Gu family home, it had been withered, but now it was flourishing. Just like me, after leaving an oppressive environment, I was thriving even more. The studio continued to expand. I opened a branch in the heart of the southern city and hired many talented young makeup artists. I even established a dedicated beauty training department to help more young people passionate about makeup pursue their dreams. On opening day, many celebrities and clients we had worked with came to support us. The front of the studio was filled with flower baskets, and the atmosphere was bustling and vibrant. At the evening celebration banquet, the team members gathered together, raising their glasses in toast. Ivy Lin walked up to me with her glass in hand, her eyes slightly red. "Mr. Shen, thank you for believing in me back then. If it weren't for you, I'd still be suffering in that photo studio." Other employees chimed in, saying that not only had they learned skills by following me, but they also felt the warmth of the team. I smiled and clinked my glass with theirs. This is the result of everyone's efforts. In the future, we must aim for even higher goals. After the celebration banquet, I returned to my apartment alone, made a cup of hot tea, and sat on the sofa, gazing at the night view outside. The lights of South City were dazzling. more vibrant and free-spirited than those of North City. I picked up my phone, scrolled to a message from a cousin I hadn't contacted for a long time. He said that the Shen family's business had started to improve under his management and asked if I wanted to go back and take a look. I thought for a moment, then replied to him, "I'll go back when I have time," but deep down I knew I had already found a new route, in the southern city, in this world I had built with my own hands, that day. I went to the training department of the studio to give a lecture. Afterward, a young apprentice timidly asked me, "Mr. Shen, have you gone through something really difficult in the past? I always feel there's a certain resilience in you, something truly admirable." I crouched down, patted her shoulder, and smiled. Everyone encounters difficult times in life, but as long as you don't give up and keep moving forward bravely, you'll surely see a different kind of scenery. The apprentice nodded, seeming to grasp my words only partially, but her eyes had gained a touch more determination. As I watched her walk away, I suddenly recalled myself 3 years ago, the cautious, compliant Elena Shen who once lived in the Gu household, completely different from who I am today. Not long after, I received a special gift, secretly sent by Mrs. Liu. Inside was a little handmade trinket I had left behind at the Gu household back then, along with a note that read, "The master still searches for you every day, but he knows he can't find you anymore. Live well." I placed the trinket in the display case of the studio, marking the final closure to what once was. Half a year later, my studio became a benchmark in the domestic beauty industry, winning multiple international awards and forming deep collaborations with several top brands. I was also invited to speak at various universities, sharing my entrepreneurial journey and beauty philosophy, becoming a role model for many young people.